it, and I'm not going to go further.
Yes. What is the White House's reaction to comments made by former White House aide Omarosa on Celebrity Big Brother, where she said, quote, she is haunted by the president's tweets. She described the situation inside the White House as bad and said it is not going to be okay.
Not very seriously. Omarosa was fired 3 times on The Apprentice, and this was the 4th time we let her go. She had limited contact with the president while here. She has no contact now. Peter.
Raj, we initially were told that Rob Porter was going to stay on a while and oversee a transition period, and now you're telling us he was terminated yesterday. What changed?
I think that we've looked at the things that are necessary to ensure a smooth transition. There will be a new acting staff secretary that we can name later on, and operations can continue smoothly. Lalit.
Thank you. Congratulations for your debut here today. Over the last 1 week, there have been at least 3 different rallies by skilled Indian Americans who are seeking a lift off the per country limit on green card. Everyone has been talking about illegal immigrants. These Indian Americans have been talking about legal immigrants. What's the administration's thought on this?
Well, I think the president wants to see legal immigration reform, wants to see us move from a process that currently exists in law of extended family chain migration toward merit-based immigration reforms. We want to ensure that people coming into the country are the best and the brightest, regardless of nationality, creed, religion, or anything else in between. We want to look at educational backgrounds, ability to contribute to the workforce in a way that helps American workers. So the president wants to see reforms that improve America's economy. Noah.
Normally when you hire people, do you wait for the investigation to come back before hiring them? Is the burden of proof not on the people seeking the job to prove that they're qualified and don't have any skeletons in their closet? Or do they just get to come aboard and you wait and see if these investigations?
The process tends to be a little bit different with the White House because there's a lot of officials coming in with the new administration and a lot of individuals coming in having interim clearance.
And then also, what about women who don't have photographs? Do you trust their stories? Because a lot of times, you haven't been at the podium, but Sarah said that allegations weren't credible from other people. Do you need a photograph? And how should women feel if they don't have a photograph?
I don't think any standard applies. I just think that we do take allegations of misconduct, of domestic violence, other issues like that very seriously. We are very concerned about them. In this instance, in the case of Rob Porter, we relied on the background check investigative process. That process hadn't been completed, so we were relying on the information that we had. Anita.
2 questions on 2 different things. I just want to understand, you use the term fully aware. I don't understand what that means. What does that mean John Kelly knew or didn't know? What is
well, I do know, for instance, that he had not seen images prior to the statement on Tuesday night.
Did he know of the allegations? Or
Sorry, say that again?
Did he know of some of the allegations?
Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of what may have emerged from the investigation.
You used the word fully aware, so I'm just trying to understand.
I understand. I'm saying specifically on images. I don't have every single detail, and I'm not going to get into every single specific. We relied on a process. This is a process used throughout the U.S. government. It's a process used by every agency for an individual seeking a security clearance. Rob Porter was never denied a security clearance. He was never given any special treatment. The process was still ongoing. We relied upon it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a second topic, which was on Capitol Hill. Members and their staffs are saying that because the court case regarding DACA is now, meaning that the administration is now accepting DACA applications again, that they feel that there's breathing room and that March 5th is no longer the deadline.
March 5th is the deadline.
And what's going to happen if they haven't done anything by then, because it doesn't look like
we say they haven't done anything. What do you mean?
If Congress hasn't acted by March 5th, what is going to happen?
Well, we fully expect Congress to take action on the president's immigration reform framework.
Raj.
April.
Okay, Raj, 2 questions. I want to follow up on Noah. You say the president takes the issue of violence against women seriously.
Yes.
Why did this administration close the Violence Against Women office when he became president last year? He defunded it and everything, and also he shut down the Women and Girls office as well. And I have another question on.
I don't know specifically why those specific offices may have been closed, but look, I did talk to the president earlier today. He told me he was very saddened by these reports and by the information that he saw, by the images that he saw. We do take violence against women and these types of allegations very seriously. What's your second question?
The interim security clearance, does that allow Rob Porter to be able to touch, at the time when he was employed here, to be able to touch and see classified materials?
Yeah, it would, yes.
Raj,
Blake.
Thanks, Raj. Let me turn your attention back to the Hill where there's this spending deal going on. Republicans for years have said there needs to be fiscal restraint, years and years and years. Now, we know that the deficit for the fiscal year, this fiscal year, is potentially going to reach $1 trillion. You've got the House Freedom Caucus saying about this deal, growing the size of government by 13% adds to the swamp instead of draining it. This is not what the American people sent us to do. Essentially, they're saying some within their party are being hypocritical. Is the president concerned about all of this spending? And what exactly is your plan to pay for it?
He is concerned about spending in Washington. He's expressed that for years. Let me just say off the bat, we do support the 2-year spending bill that is being discussed and voted on in the House and Senate. It lifts the caps on defense spending, which is something that the Secretary of Defense, the President's generals have told him that they need to ensure that we rebuild our military and protect our national security. With respect to deficits, we're going to be releasing a budget on Monday. The budget does move us toward a path of restoring fiscal responsibility. It reduces our deficit by trillions of dollars. I'm not going to get more specific. You guys will get more on Monday. But it does incorporate these budget caps, incorporates the tax bill, incorporates our other priorities. So we do think that that budget will outline a path toward fiscal responsibility.
You're still going to be running deficits at that point, and now you've got this $300 billion cap to raise. So is it just economic growth? Is that the only way that
economic growth is essential to cutting deficits and to restoring fiscal responsibility? Again, the budget will outline a lot more detail.
Raj?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the involvement of the White House Communications Director in crafting the statements that your office issued yesterday?
Well,
among them, you have the defense issued by the Chief of Staff. You have the statement that Sarah read from the podium in which Rob Porter calls the allegations against him vile and outrageous. What can you tell us about the extent to which the Communications Director was involved in crafting those statements?
Well, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but I would say that all the statements were crafted by a number of senior White House officials. Margaret?
One more question,
Yeah.
because you have repeatedly referred to the denials that Rob Porter issued. How much weight were those denials given within the White House?
I think you've got to take allegations seriously. You've got to take denials seriously. And again, the statements reflected our experience with Rob Porter and other officials' experience with Rob Porter. But again, looking at more of the reporting and looking at more facts emerging, you saw the Chief of Staff statement, and the White House did accept his resignation. Margaret?
Thanks. A couple more questions about this issue. Can you, it sounded like you're saying the investigation is ongoing, is that right?
Well, I don't think, now that he's been terminated, I don't think it continues, but I could get back to you on the specifics.
So I guess what I was going to ask is, once the investigation is totally completed and you're satisfied that you know the answers to those questions, could you elaborate more specifically on the first time anyone mentioned this to the president, when,
I know that any issues regarding his security clearance weren't made available to the president prior to Tuesday.
Hang on, so I'm sorry, hang on a second, please. I guess, does the president retain full confidence in his chief of staff?
Yes.
In his White House counsel, in his communications director?
Yeah, absolutely. The president has confidence in his chief of staff, counsel, and
Can I
communications.
ask you a finance question real quickly on
Sure.
on the spending plan? As I understand it, and notwithstanding whatever the budget is going to say, the U.S. is going to have to borrow more than $1 trillion this year, and it could affect markets globally. Does the president feel confident, would you dispute that? And does the president feel confident that that's still the right thing to do and it can be kind of mitigated in the budget plan?
Well, I'd refer you to Treasury on the specifics. I know that some of those numbers have more to do with the previous administration's accounting than it has to do with this administration's policies. But I would say that we are committed to fiscal discipline, and the budget next week will show that in greater detail. Ann?
Yeah, back to Mr. Porter.
Sure.
If I understood your description of the background check process correctly, the fact that the two ex-wives had made statements to the FBI about alleged abuse during that investigation was not a disqualifying factor in his initial hiring. Does the White House regret that? And going forward, do you plan to change the way you consider allegations of domestic abuse?
Well, again, understand that the background investigation was not completed. There was no determination made about Rob Porter's security clearance. There was not a thumbs up or thumbs down. There was no denial of a security clearance. He was operating off an interim clearance. That is the clearance that many individuals who have never had a security clearance would get when they first come to the White House. With respect to allegations made, again, every allegation has to be investigated. Any denial has to be thoroughly and fully investigated. We allow that process to play out.